Welcome, everyone. This is our first in our podcast where we are streaming directly live to YouTube. So welcome to CyberSafe News and Views. I'm Lee Fraser, and I'll be your guide. So today, we've got a couple topics that we want to talk about, some of which are some cybersecurity things that you're not doing today that you need to be concerned about and stop what you're doing and change. Make sure you do them today. So that'll be right off the bat. So take quick notes, and then after the podcast, after we end the live, go out and get these things done. Okay. And then after that, we're going to look at the topic for the day that we want to educate you on is really site surveys. What are they and why do I care? So we'll start there. By the way, today's episode brought to you by the color yellow. You can't get more yellow than this shirt. It's a light in the dark when it's when there's dark places, but I personally like it.
It's a good color.
Maybe not for me, but it's a good color for somebody. How about that? Yeah.
Is that the highlighter of your day?
There's
the joke, but don't bump.
Some groaners there, I think. Yeah. So the first thing, again, out of the box, we want to talk about some cybersecurity things you're not doing today. And how do we know? Because we're contacted on a regular basis with these things. So we're going to start it right out with who's got the first one?
I do. It's very important to have MFA. What's that, Lee?
Yep, stop there. MFA. That sounds like you were cursing or something. Multi-factor authentication. So if you're not familiar with multi-factor authentication, everyone knows that you've got a little pin on your phone, right? You recognize your face, and then when it doesn't recognize you, it says, "Hey, type in your pin." That's kind of like your password. So that's something you know. Multi-factor really dives into something you have. Might be a little multi-factor. It might be a little code generator, or Google. Google's got an authenticator.
Yep.
Microsoft also has an authenticator, or something you are. So when you get into some devices, it reads your fingerprint. Some devices, it just reads your face and authorizes you in, or it generates a code to text that you have to type in, or your email. That's what Diana's talking about in multi-factor. So something you know, a password, and something you have or something you are. So why is that important, Diana?
It's important because it's a second level of good security. I was not at my desk, and I was notified for a second factor. Oh, we might lose power. Sorry. Yep. We're really close.
Keep going.
Okay, multi-factor. I was notified with an extra code to input, but I was not at my desk. I was not working. And so I knew somebody had initiated that code, and I can stop it right there. Nobody gets in. And I tell you, when you've got things like Facebook, you think nobody's going to get in, but they do. And so I've got multi-factor on everything. Best thing I ever did.
Yep. So even when they know your password, they still can't get in. So that's a critical one. And oh, by the way, if you were part of the Facebook hack, what was that? It was a few months ago. My wife was part of the Facebook hack, but she had multi-factor turned on, and she was notified every time that someone tried to use her old password, but they never got in.
Yep.
On the contrary, we deal with many small businesses or healthcare providers that didn't or don't have multi-factor turned on their social media, and they lose those accounts because their password was hacked, it was exposed to the internet. Someone tried to log in and they got in. And then they change your recovery email address, and suddenly you no longer have access to it anymore. And there's nothing you can do about it. Once it's been long enough, there's nothing, you can't get it back. So very important. Thank you for that one. All right, who's up next?
I'll go. So something we see honestly more often than you would think. People say, oh, well, I don't have to put antivirus or any protection on this device because I only use it for this one program. Well, yeah, that's all good and dandy, but you still want to protect your devices. And they come back and say, oh, well, it doesn't use the internet. I don't need the internet on this computer, so no one can get on it. Well, don't assume that your computer's not connecting to the internet just because that program doesn't need it. We've seen before, oh, yeah, this computer program doesn't need internet. Well, I can still see it on your network. It's still online. It's vulnerable. So, yeah.
Yes, we see that a lot. If it's on your Wi-Fi or ever was, it's going to tend to want to rejoin.
Mm-hmm.
So, good point. Protect all your devices, antivirus, ransomware, some type of security. Yeah, yep. Good. All right, Allison, I think you're last.
Yeah. What I would like to share is, well, oversharing. Oversharing information makes you vulnerable to all kinds of different attacks, whether that's somebody taking your identity or whether that's someone gaining information that they shouldn't necessarily have about something. And traditionally, this was limited to things like filling out forms or putting things on Facebook. But now we've kind of stepped into the age of artificial intelligence, and people are using things like ChatGPT and other like different AIs that they just ask a question and it gives you back an answer like a normal person. However, if you are putting too much information into these programs, it's remembered. Statistically speaking, only 2% of the budget is put towards security in any given AI company development. So if you're putting in names and passwords and any other critical information or personal information, that could potentially get out to someone who shouldn't have it.
Yep. So I'll tell you, on social media, I hate those. Hey, participate! Everybody share this and contribute. What was your first elementary school, and what was the name of your first teacher, and what was the name of your first dog, your first car? You realize these are the questions to get your accounts back when you forget your password.
Mm-hmm.
And people are sharing it out there right and left. Just Mrs. What's her name, and yeah, I went to this school, and I just look at that, and that is social engineering. They are trying to get all that information from you so that they can learn about you. And the more sources you have, the more data you have out there, and the easier it is to start guessing your passwords, resetting your passwords, getting access to you and your data.
And that's called open source information. You put it out there, it's available for anybody to see. So they now have access to this because you gave it to them, not intentionally, but it's there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so mine, I'll share one. Since you mentioned open source information, you put it out there. Yeah, mine's about when people accidentally or don't share your information without you knowing, and then tell you later, oh yeah, by the way, that was the AT&T hack. AT&T got hacked a couple of years ago. Whatever reason, my number was part of it. My wife's wasn't. None of my family was. Absolutely just crazy. But the result of that exposure of information, just my number, I get text messages like you wouldn't believe. I mean, daily, 10, 20 text messages. They're just like, hey, how you doing? I'd love to catch up sometime. They're all fake. And if you respond, they're going to lead you down a rabbit hole until eventually, well, who exactly are you? And you've already given them password or bank account information, and don't do it. If you don't have that person stored in your information, in your contacts, make sure they identify themselves before you respond to anything. So be careful.
Yes.
So those are the things. I'm sorry. Comments, guys.
Yes. And you can even be fooled on Facebook because it looks like it's coming from somebody that's in your contact list.
Yeah.
You have to be careful about that because they'll ask you, how are you doing? I'm fine. How are you? and they don't know where to go from there. And that's immediately how you detect it. But yeah, I've been asked by somebody in my contact list, how are you doing?
Yeah. And those are cloned accounts. And
Yep.
it's sad, but a friend of mine that I worked with many years ago died recently. And then within a month or two, I get a Facebook Messenger message from him. Hey, how you doing? I'm like, I'm doing better than you because you're dead.
Wow.
I still get friend requests every now and then from my grandmother.
Wow.
It happens. So be careful. Facebook is its own little cybersecurity enclave that you need to be careful of. So yeah, that we could have a whole episode on that sometimes, I think. All right. Excellent. So that's the things you're doing wrong and things you're not doing. So set up multi-factor. Don't respond to those text messages. Be careful on Facebook. It's not always the person you think it is, even if it looks like them. If Facebook, they can clone accounts. And what exactly are they they're just trying to get more information out of you. So, all right. Thanks, everybody. This week, we're going to keep everybody in the stream, but Diana and I are going to talk about site surveys. So the first thing, Diana, I really want to ask you is just demystify this a little bit. Site surveys, I mean, that doesn't make sense to me. What are they? And just bring it down a little bit for me.
Okay, so a site survey is where I look at your physical surroundings. What building are you in? So outside, inside, what kind of building are you in? And then I look at, are there any privacy concerns? So, depending on what kind of a business you are, I'm looking for privacy concerns that you may need to be aware of. And then compliance concerns. Now that's going to be based on what field you're in business-wise. So there's medical and there's others that don't have all that compliance to worry about. But most everybody has something that they need to be concerned about that I'm looking at.
Right. So yeah, a lot of when we do site surveys, it's really, as you're mentioning, just looking around the office and taking in with that critical eye exactly what's going on and looking at it from a security point of view, looking at it from just a whole well-rounded point of view on that one.
Right. For instance, cameras inside out. Do you have them? Do you have a monitored security system that you set at night and either you're notified or you've got a company that's looking out for you? And then network. How is your network set up? I'm looking at all those things to see how secure you are.
Right. Okay. So tell me a little bit more about that. What have you seen out there in the industry when you've been doing these site surveys?
Okay. So one of the first things I ask is, do you rent the space? Do you own the space? Does anybody else rent from you? Do you have a lower ceiling? Because there's issues there, a drop ceiling, so to speak. And then do you have patients that are coming to your office? And if you do, where are you keeping any private information on any one person? Where is that secure? Is it being kept away from any other eyes than yours?
Yeah. Someone's got a knock at the door. Feel free to go handle the kid or whatever's going on. It happens.
It happens. Right.
So
do you want me to tell the story about the drop ceiling that I experienced firsthand, or do you want to elaborate more on what we just talked about?
No, tell me that story, because you mentioned the ceilings. Are the drop ceilings? I mean, so far, why does that matter? If I've got a drop ceiling, what do I need to be concerned about?
Right. Well, with a standalone office, maybe not so much, maybe. But if you're in a strip mall, so to speak, if you've got a business on your left and on your right, and it's a drop ceiling, and you're an office that needs to remain medically compliant, but you've got a pizza place next door. This actually happened. I talked to her on the site survey. What had happened is they got into the pizza restaurant, went up over the wall, down the drop ceiling, and stole her laptop with her information. And she needed to be secure. But they took it.
So a break-in at a pizza place turned into a HIPAA violation.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did.
That's almost funny, but it's sad because
think about it. You're not thinking about those kinds of things. You know, does a wall go all the way up? Like we've been talking about. If it's a drop ceiling, you need to be concerned that that wall goes all the way up, or some way it is, you can't pass through offices or restaurants to offices to other buildings. Yeah.
So, but wait a minute. This seems like simple stuff. Everyone's got to have their eye on this. Why is this relevant to our audience? You know, small offices, small businesses, healthcare offices. Why is it relevant to them?
You know, just like all of us, we are concerned about keeping things. We don't want to lose our information. We don't want anybody to be breaking into our offices or our homes or anything else. We want to, and we have a false sense that we are secure. There's that false sense because you're not taking a very critical eye and looking at, have you thought about that? Because I can see here that I can see that patient's information. So we need to correct that. Where are you keeping all this sensitive information for your clients? For your, is it upside down? Do you lock it up? How do you shred it? I mean, so it's a critical eye that needs to be looked at. So I don't doubt for a minute that everybody is concerned. It's just that next step to doing something about it for one more level of security.
All right. So you mentioned HIPAA. It also applies when we start talking about start taking credit cards.
Right.
You've got some PCI compliance there. So great points. So if anyone wants more information on this, leave us a comment down below on the YouTube or on the podcast, whatever your viewing platform of choice is on this one. And we will provide you our checklist of where we start with to talk about and look at your office for our site survey. And again, it's just a simple look around your office for our things. What's your cybersecurity stance?
Yep.
All right. So leave us a comment. Just say site survey, or I'm interested in the site survey, whatever's appropriate, and we will get that to you. All right.
Absolutely.
Excellent.
Is there a closing joke or anything?
No closing. No.
I so look forward to those jokes.
Oh, well, I might have one or two coming, but now it's time for the news.
Oh, okay. Got it.
I feel like we need a nice snappy little news or something. I don't know.
I'll work on that.
A video to go across.
Yeah. It's time for the
This
news.
just in.
There you go.
Leave it to Allison. She'll set up our news every time. All right, let me pull this up. All right, so in the news this week, remember a couple weeks ago, the Microsoft hack, where they got into their executives' email. Well, turns out as they're diving into this, they got executives' email between Microsoft and government agencies. This is serious stuff. This is stuff you don't want hitting the internet or just anybody to know. Absolutely unreal. You'd think a company like Microsoft, well, Fortune 500, I'm sorry, you should be securing your data, right?
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, we're trusting you for that.
Right. If you're a healthcare provider and we're trusting you. I mean, okay, let me stop. Show of hands, everybody that's on the podcast right now. How many times have you been notified in the last year that your data was exposed by a healthcare provider? Oh, we got 2 no's. Oh, okay, maybe a third.
Oh man.
Does it count if I worked for them but didn't have any data leaked?
Yes, that counts. You know, these hacks, they're responsible to secure that information. Yeah, healthcare providers, small businesses, if you've got private data that you're required to keep that private. And you'd think Microsoft, billions of dollars, I don't even know, $200 billion company, surely they could protect their data, and yet they couldn't. So interesting article. By the way, they've got a cybersecurity budget. But Allison, it might only be 2%. Just saying. Like you mentioned.
Hey, anyway. I don't know.
Yeah. All right. So other news articles. In a news article this week from PC World, they reviewed free antivirus and recommended which one you should use. Now, let me give you a hint. You shouldn't use free antivirus. It's a nice to have. I realize, it's great if there's free antivirus out there. It just doesn't do the job. Free is never free. Thank you for that comment. It's not. Free's not free. If it's free, you're dealing with some level of less protection. It just is. Now, it doesn't have to be expensive. We're not talking about hundreds of dollars a month. It can be inexpensive, but still do the job and do it quite effectively. So, yeah, be careful. Reading even news articles out there that are provided by companies trying to provide you good information, it's use your best judgment. All right. Oh, I keep clicking on the wrong window. There we go. Optics giant Hoya hit with a $10 million ransomware. $10 million, or they're going to expose all their data to the internet.
Oh, man.
So people,
Who's
again,
got that much money in their back pocket?
Say that again.
Who's got that much money in their back pocket?
Some of these businesses might. By the way, Hoya is a optics. I think I mentioned that optics. They make optical equipment for, I believe it's opticians and ophthalmologists.
Well, how did they not see this coming?
Oh, but I'm bump again.
We did not plan. That's funny. Yeah, they should have seen this coming. You are correct. But $10 million or else is really what it is. And in the next article, it's official. The U.S. government has officially said and come out against Kaspersky. Leave it to the federal government to be a day late and about $1 million short. Kaspersky is developed in the Eastern European countries. It's known to be bad. It's been off the list of companies' cybersecurity approved software for at least a decade. Mm-hmm. No one's running this, and yet the federal government comes out against it. Congratulations, better late than never.
Yeah, I guess.
I mean, if they're going to ban people from hacking too, so it's sometimes rather interesting. But
that was like 2 weeks ago. People shouldn't. We're going to make it illegal for people to hack. I'm like, it already is illegal. Yeah, whatever. Hey, I just report the news. I don't make it. And remember, Change Healthcare was hacked. What was that? It's got to be at least a month and a half ago, maybe 2 months ago. Mm-hmm. Well, they're in the news again. They've been hacked a second time. Oh. No lie.
No.
They've been hacked. by a different company, a different
that's
hacker
horrible.
organization. Unbelievable. So the first company was going to take them offline and did take them offline. They just couldn't process transactions. This one is taking a very different approach. They're saying, we've got your data and you better pay for it, or I'm going to sell your data in 10, 9. They're literally counting down the days. They gave them 12 days to pay the ransom. So you'd think that Change Healthcare would have been like, okay, we got to get this right. Let's get cybersecurity in place. And yet they're still dealing with the second hack in 2 months.
Man, yikes.
Yep.
Scary.
I debated saying this, but I'm going to. Something needs to change.
Oh.
Can't help it.
Okay.
He's sometimes funny, folks.
Yeah, I don't plan on quitting my day job anytime soon.
Good.
And speaking about your day job, the U.S. Health Department warns hospitals that hackers are now targeting IT help desks for getting into their organizations. So it's interesting. They do this from a social engineering point of view generally. So they're calling up saying, hey, I can't get into my computer. Hey, can you reset my account? They might have somebody's name. They might know somebody that works at that organization. So they're calling in with a little bit of information, and then it's enough of a target to get people to then reset an account, send them an email. Oh, I'm not at my computer. My computer broke. Can you send it to a personal email address? And suddenly they're hacked. Someone's gotten into their organization. So unreal.
Yeah.
All right. Only 2 more. This is a bumper crop of news articles this week. Absolutely unreal. The next one is the Birmingham cyber attack happened recently. You ever heard the joke? Thieves busted into the police station and stole the toilets. The authorities have nothing to go on.
Okay. Yay.
That's kind of what happened in the Birmingham cyber attack. So police are not getting paid and they're unable to run warrants. So these are real impacts to the city. I mean, not getting paid, the police, but because of this hack, there's so much of the additional infrastructure has been shut down. So that's comparable to what it would happen to a small business. I mean, you have decidedly less devices than a police department than a city would. But if they get into your environment and suddenly, hey, I can't access Quicken or however my bank account, and it becomes very important. And then in a report of history, in 2023, RDP was listed as the #1 hacking method. So let me stop there. RDP, Remote Desktop Protocol. It's a remote access method to get into your PC. And what many IT guys will tell you is, yeah, I can set up remote desktop so that you can remote in from home into your office. That's great. It works. It is completely unsecure. And people that have this set up are getting hacked daily. Like I said, the report mentioned 2023 was the #1 method of hack. So once they find out a little bit about you, they see that port's open through the firewall, they get access to you, and you're done.
Yep.
So there you go. That's the news for the week. This is very important from everyone's point of view of just getting more information about what's happening in the industry so that you can be aware. You can be informed. People with big budgets are getting hacked. You need to do something. If we can help you do something small now, reach out. Let's give you that cybersecurity, that site survey review. We'll set up our outline, give it directly to you. But if we can help you in any other way, please don't hesitate to reach out. We hope this was informational, a little bit educational, and fun at the same time. So leave us a comment, subscribe, and we'll see you next week.
All right. Bye.